So the Playhouse was founded in 1929. Just this February, we turned 89. We've been in our space on Anaheim Street since 1951. Our mission is to celebrate the human experience while encouraging the participation of artists and audience alike. Well, I think the Long Beach Playhouse is unique in a couple of different ways. We are a true community theater of Long Beach. You know, we have volunteers on our stages, and we do our art for our community. And since we have two separate stages, we get to do a lot of different types of theater: comedies, dramas, musicals, classics, new works, edgier contemporary stories. So we get to hit all of the different types of theater throughout the year. So we get to be we get to hit every audience and at least one show out of the year everybody's going to like.
The Playhouse is actually a pretty amazing place. We have been here since 1929, so we're going on our 90th year. We are I think we are the longest continuously running community theater our side of the Mississippi. And that's pretty awesome when you think about it. We opened the year of the Great Depression, and we never closed our doors. We moved, yes, we moved around a lot, but we've never closed our doors. We continue in the community theater fashion. Our actors are all volunteers. They don't get paid. We pull in directors and other talent that's able to, they're able to put up our shows and make them sparkly and look great. And a lot of people that come and see our shows, they don't realize that they're amateur productions, and I think that is a testament to the fact that we've been here as long as we have, and we're established, and we can pull from a great pool of talent.
On our main stage, that's our thrust stage on the first floor, has 200 seats, and that has a more family-friendly season. We usually do a murder mystery, some comedies, some dramas. We do our annual holiday Christmas Carol, and we have a big summer musical. Upstairs in our studio, we have a shorter season, 5 shows that are usually a bit more contemporary and a bit more adult-oriented and diverse issues and themes that kind of represent more of the Long Beach community. With our studio season, we have 5 shows a year, and that only takes up from April through about mid-November. Then the rest of the year, we're able to use our studio space to do the collaborative series. So our artistic director will get applications from outside theater groups or individual artists that don't necessarily have their own space to perform, and they get to bring their show to an established theater. They produce the work, we present the work, and then we get to expose our audiences to new types of theater they may not normally see, and then the outside theater companies get to have the legitimacy of working with a long-standing theater. So we've gotten to work with lots of different types of groups and have had full-out musicals up on our stages, a one-man show, a dance troupe, a comedy show. So we get to have an eclectic experience throughout the collaborative series.
So the collaborative studio was started by Andrew Vonderschmidt when he was here, and it was very important to him, and it's important to all of us because it brings in local talent from the community, and it brings in a different perspective, just like the new works. We have a lot of talent in this community. There are people that are bringing in their original pieces. There are people that are bringing in, bucket list shows that they've wanted to produce on their own and put up. There are live music performances, you name it. We encourage everything. Every year it's exciting because it's a different program than what you're used to here at the Long Beach Playhouse. And it's always something to look forward to because you're getting new voices, new perspectives, and that's where the New Works fits in perfectly. Even though we are a part of Long Beach Playhouse, we fit into that to the collaborative season because we are just that. We are collaborative. We reach out to the community to pull in readers, new directors. That's how we find a lot of our new directors. A lot of the readers end up acting in shows here. We reach out to new stage managers with the New Works Festival. It's just a way to get more people involved.
The mission of the committee has been to foster new playwrights, give them a platform, particularly as the Long Beach Playhouse is a community theater. It's been an outreach to our Long Beach community, encouraging people near and far to submit their work so that they can get feedback and build a presence and build their work.
The Long Beach Playhouse New Works Festival is important to me because it's been an institution here at the Playhouse since the 90s when it began. It started back in 1990. Elaine Herman, the artistic director at that point in time here at the Long Beach Playhouse, she is the one that started the New Works Festival. Her and Joe Black Jacob, and they kept it going for years. So it's important in that respect that this is a tradition here that has been taking place since 1990. So we're going on 28 years, almost 30 years, and it gives writers an opportunity to hear their works read, and it gives our actors an opportunity to work with new scripts, which is really important to hear new voices and help to nurture new voices in the writing community.
Our New Works Festival, I think, is very important because in its name, it's New Works. With our regular seasons, we always do established productions that have a following or have won some awards of some sort to get the audiences in. So with the New Works Festival, we're able to expose our audience to something brand new, something that has never been performed before, and that's always exciting to have our audiences see something brand new and depending on, what the story is about, learn something, cry about something, laugh about something. So I think it's very important for our audiences to see something that is brand new that has never been done before.
For the festival, writers can submit as many pieces as they want. We ask for a full-length, unproduced play. That is very, very important because a lot of times we get plays that come in that have already been produced, and we can't. They're automatically disqualified if they've been produced. So full-length, unproduced. And by full length, that means we don't accept one acts. As of right now, that could change in the future. And we also do not currently accept musicals, which that also may be changing in the future.
Moving forward in the next couple of years, we're hoping to get a lot more local submissions. We want to have a California or a Southern California winner for the festival, along with someone from somewhere else in the United States. But we think that since we are a community theater, we should be representing our community along with, in this area, with the New Works Festival, having a local person that we get to expose to our community and to share their talents and share their work.
Alchemy Theater is a newer theater, and what we do is we move from different spaces at theaters who are kind enough to allow us to rent their space or offer up their space and do shows and productions that maybe they wouldn't get the opportunity to, because being a small theater, especially in Orange County, it can be very, very difficult if you want to do something that is artistically fulfilling, but you got to sell tickets. And so Alchemy, we don't have any overhead at present time, and so we go into other spaces and perform really interesting pieces of work, something that you're not going to see at every single theater all the time. And so we bring something new and fresh to the artistic community and thankfully with the support of the artistic community that already exists there. When we were trying to figure out the name for Alchemy, the original founders, Stephen John, Corey John, Jesse Rundy, Tiffany Berg, and myself were sitting around and we're like, oh, we got to think of a name for the company. It can't just be Theater Company. And we were trying to think of things that were important to us. Jesse Rundy, one of our founding company members, has a tattoo on herself, and she has 2 Alchemy tattoos on herself. One is for like the water of life or alcohol or whatever. But the other one is for gold. It's the alchemy symbol for gold, because in tales and myths and stuff, that was the point of alchemy, to turn lead into gold. And so we really kept thinking about that idea of that's what theater is you take all these little pieces, and then when you synthesize them together, they become this production. And so that was so important to us and just felt natural, especially when you think of all the pieces that have to come together in a collaborative effort. And individually on their own, they're not worth anything. An actor is an actor, a director is a director, sets, lights, sound, everything. They're important on their own, but they're not worth anything. You don't just show up somewhere to see just lights happen on a stage. When you put them all together, it becomes this beautiful thing, and it's worth more than anything. And so the Alchemy logo, Stephen John originally sketched it, is then the A with a line through it, and then kind of these little curly cues that come off it, and a dot in the center. And the symbol for gold in Alchemy, and Alchemy symbol, is a circle with a dot, and then a line comes out and it has these little kind of points at the edge of it. So he just sketched that out like right away, and we latched onto it really, really quick. And so it became this call that we bring pieces of theater together to create this really, really important thing. So I think it's just such a nice story that we took something from, or we were inspired by something that was so important to Jesse, and that it got sketched, and we looked at it, and it was just perfect. It was perfect right there, and we knew that that's what it needed to be. And so it's lived on through everything. That Alchemy is a synthesis of all the things that make theater great. Alchemy is a 501c3 under our umbrella company, 10C. We're very lucky to have them. The way that people can support Alchemy is, obviously you can donate money, but we want to bring more people into the Alchemy family. We don't have a main home yet, and we really, really want to change that soon. And the way that we're going to change that is having more people involved in the shows themselves. So come in, maybe you want to run the box office one night, or just tell people about the show. We just want to increase our Alchemy family more and more and more, so that when we do finally have a home, we can have a big housewarming party, in our new space. And so we need more family members to come in and just have a good time and put on important pieces of work. Alchemy is so important because we can do those sorts of things, and we want to continue pushing that envelope. And even maybe if it's a show that you've seen before, like Cyrano or Romeo and Juliet, that we're bringing something fresh to it. We're bringing something new to it to make sure that you're getting the show that you've always wanted to see, but at the same time, you're getting a new experience. We just need people to enjoy themselves and want to come back and tell their friends about it, that we saw an Alchemy show somewhere. And that's not to disparage the wonderful theaters that let us into their spaces, but that our stamp is on every production that we do, and that it always tries to peel back the layers of too much spectacle. We want things to be engaging and fun and big and beautiful, but the real heart of Alchemy is that we want to get to the hearts of people and to really bring something special, and that when you see an Alchemy show, you're going to walk away with a personal experience at the end of the night, and maybe not just walk away, well, that was a fun show, but walk away that gave me so much to talk about, even with the people that you're walking out of the theater with, when you think, like, what was that moment? And that was so cool. I'd like to see that in more of my theater so that we increase our family. And so when we roll into town somewhere, people know that it's going to be a quality production and we're going to bring something new to it. Alchemy is on Facebook and we're on Instagram. We also have our website, so you can always go there, check out when the auditions are coming or new shows. We're going to have tickets up, so you can get your tickets there. But follow us on Facebook. We have pictures from the cast, the rehearsals, everything. You can join our mailing list. You can just go on the website and go to our Contact Us and say, I'd like to join the mailing list. You can always go and contact us on the site and volunteer your services, whether you want to be a director, you want to be a designer, you want to be an usher, or you just want to find out ways that you can help support Alchemy. We're always happy to have more people around and join us. So Facebook, Instagram, and the website are the best ways to contact us.
I first found out about Breath of Fire, Latina Theater Ensemble, probably about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I was a student at UCI, and I had done a production with Sara Guerrero, which is one of the founders of Breath of Fire. And so through that production, I learned a little bit more about Breath of Fire. And so she told us that they had like writing sessions and they had other opportunities. So one day I just decided to go, and I've been there ever since. So it's been about 2 or 3 years that I've been with them. So all the classes that they offer and that have benefited me, they do like playwriting, and then they've done screenwriting. They've done sometimes just writing workshops where if you want to go with any piece that you are working on, or so it might be, I think it was just general writing, but whatever piece that you take in, we'd love to share and, feedback. We've also had like movement, acting. We've done recently musical theater. So there really are a range of workshops that they've done. And how they benefited me, I've got a taste of everything. So from playwriting, screenwriting, and sometimes they brought in like Jose Cruz Gonzalez. They brought in different playwrights, and then I believe there was a workshop, Theater of the Oppression, so they brought in somebody who like specialized in that. So I've been able to learn from different areas of theater and acting and playwriting, which has been awesome because that gives you a more, overall sense of what it all is. So you get a taste of everything. So the importance of having I would say like Latinx playwrights and scripts and all that good stuff is there's such a community out there that still hasn't had a voice, and we've been very limited in our choices of who gets to be that one spokesperson for that whole community. So definitely it's very important, like with Breath of Fire, to get different voices on the Latinx platform because not everybody's experience is the same. So really a range of voices and shows and scripts and actors as well. So. The importance of having bilingual plays performed is that you let another part of the community into this world. Right? So I think it's and also it makes everything more relatable. And so in essence, when you have, because many folks speak English and Spanish or just English, but what about the folks who just speak Spanish, for example, and not just Spanish, but in bilingualism and other communities who have dual languages, but it makes everything come together. The communities come together because there's an understanding. So when you have members in the audience who maybe couldn't understand one part or the other, like it still brings them in together because you got those two communications going on.
I found out about Breath of Fire through a friend, Yolanda. She is also a playwright at Breath of Fire, Latina Theater Ensemble. And she just told me about the wonderful community, and I was very interested. So I started going to their writing workshops. I've attended several Breath of Fire workshops, and if you go to the website, you can sign up for the newsletter to find out upcoming classes, which I highly recommend. They're taught by people who are experts in their fields, whether it's improv, musical theater, writing, acting, self-care, which is very important because it's very easy, I think, for artists in all fields to burn out. So self-care was a workshop that I enjoyed very much. But they are, like I said, they're very welcoming. No one will be turned away because of lack of funds or because of what language you speak or who you are. And they're very informative. They're easygoing, so, shy people can come. They're not intimidating. And you learn a lot. It's a very tight community. Like I said, you'll feel welcome and maybe walk away having learned a new skill and made new friends and feel like you have a place that you can come back to. The importance of keeping the Latina voice alive in theater and television and entertainment in general is that we have a huge Latino population here, and it's very easy for, even though it's a big community, a big population, it's very easy to not see them, to not hear them. To forget the Latina community's needs, wants, desires. Also, then all that might be available is a false narrative about the Latina community. So we need Latinas to tell their stories so that people who don't know the community and maybe even fear the community aren't just listening to false narratives about them.
First time I found about Breath of Fire was actually by scrolling through Facebook. It was about, maybe was it a year or two ago? I'm not even sure, but it was like an off day, and I was just like kind of feeling uninspired. And then I saw a post about a playwriting workshop with Christina Leach. It was just like a one-time only thing, and then I didn't have anything that weekend, so I just went, and I loved it. And then I kind of like took a break, but then I joined again when they had another playwriting series. So because it actually gives folks a space to be creative, and it's like a very welcoming environment. Like, it's actually like a family. Like, I know so many people already, and we barely meet like at one workshop, and we're already like this. It's like a place for artists, really. You just feel free, and yeah, like there should be more spaces like that, especially with the types of people that we have. Like, oh, everybody there. It's just like, yeah. As a kid, like I would always kind of like write little stories, and I even like wrote a novel when I was like 14, and it was something silly, like high school things, and I had this like idea for a screenplay, but it never really was. I didn't have the resources. Like, my family wasn't really, we're working class. We didn't really do things that were kind of creative, and
like at school it would be like only performance things that I would be involved in, but once I entered college and once I found Breath of Fire, that's when I really knew that there was a place for me to exercise that muscle that I've never been able to. So the first time I ever met any of the people at Breath of Fire, it was pretty cool because it was it was about probably 4 people and then Christina Leach. And it was a really great little meetup. And I remembered it was like a writing prompt that we had to use, like newspapers. And then I just had this story spark in there, and I was so excited, and then I had to share it, and it was great because it's like they all kind of saw that like spark. Like, oh my God, like, oh, look at her. She found something. And when Diana Bourbano had her playwriting series, I think it might have been last year, the first class, it was eye-opening, and I remember riding the bus because I would get there. I don't have a car. I just take public transit. Like I like taking public transit, and the way back, I had like this idea that came out, and I just started writing right after I took Diana's first class, and it was amazing. Like I had this idea all along. Like it was kind of semi-autobiographical, but not really, and it was just something in that class that day that just like made me, like, you should have seen me like in the bus. I was just like, wah! And like it was 7 p.m. and I was getting off the bus, and I was like, whoa, I have something. I've never had anything before. Like I never really took a chance on myself. So I guess that's kind of like the awakening that I had.
Breath of Fire's mission is to offer more opportunities in the visual and performing arts for Latinas. And it's important, I think, to local and Southern California communities because, one, it's in the mission that we're there to offer that space for Latinas that may not be there for other, within the local community. And I think it's just important to have a presence of Latinas and a Chicano, Latina, space just in the artist community. It's important to have bilingual plays because, again, you want the audience to hear themselves in it. They want to see themselves in the play. And, whichever way you can do it, whichever language you can get an audience member to relate and feel comfortable with the play, you should go for it. I would like to see more plays produced in Spanish. I'm actually a pocha, so I'm half white, half Mexican, and so I came to Spanish, in high schools where I learned Spanish, but poorly, very badly. And I had to go to college to learn all the bad words. My friends taught me that. But it's important to have the language because there's so many people who speak Spanish. They should be able to see plays and media in their language. Aspiring playwrights is they show up to one of our workshops and you just show up. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be a writer. You just show up and, if people want to share, they can share. If they don't have to. And we just sort of take everybody along and hopefully they'll get something out of it. We've had people who weren't playwrights who've come and taken the workshop. I think it's really important if you're an artist to try a different genre as well. I think it translates or brings something new to whatever your main art form is.
Teatro Máscara Mágica has been around for about 35 years. We incorporated about 30 years ago. We started at the Old Globe Theater with my mentor teacher, Craig Knoll. He was the one who put this little seed that this tree grew on. He was a man who loved the Latino culture. He also believed that one day San Diego would be 70% Latino. And there had to be a voice, especially in the theater landscape, that spoke to this voice. So we created what was called Teatro Meta at that time. And Teatro Meta was the educational wing. It was the first educational wing of a regional theater. What we did was incorporate Latin American plays in the season of the Old Globe. They were bilingual plays. And we knew and we found out that there was a treasure in there in our hills, which was the Mexican population. It was an incredible awakening after all these years that there hadn't been any theater. Teatro, if you will. So the seeds grew from that. We got a Ford Foundation grant. We did a play about Barrio Logan for the first time. It was called Over Easy, about this illegal immigrant that swam across the ocean and landed at Barrio Logan. And the murals came to life to him. It was a magical, realistic journey. It was the first play that ever spoke about this subject. And then from that on, we went into the Globe and did some seasonal plays. Then it became their educational wing. When they became the educational wing, Dr. Jorge Huerta and myself and Dr. Floyd Gaffney from UCSD took this to another level, which was now Teatro Máscara Mágica, a common ground theater company. We're a multicultural theater wing. We do African American plays, Asian plays, theater of the absurd, Spanish plays, and most of our thrust is in the Latin canon, the Latin work. That's where our commitment mostly is. The other thing is that we have an outreach program that's really important. We actually go across this country and do motivational speak to young kids. We go to schools where there's no arts. We infuse the arts with their education and give them a positive self-image. If they're not exposed to theater, they won't support the theater. So we train actors, we train technicians, we do playwrights. We've done almost 35 original World College premieres and almost 35 to 40 original plays. We've done all of Josefina Lopez's plays, Carlos Morton's plays. We've done the canon of Spanish literature. So we're here. One of our major thrusts is to get new plays and playwrights. We don't have enough playwrights in the Latino world. So what we're going to do is a workshop on playwriting and dramaturgy, because that's important to hear their voice, for them to create their own stories, right? And to go beyond their stories, to go to a universal story of their stories, how they're influenced from their little barrio to the big barrio of the world. That's what our scope is to reach out with the musical theater genre, with realistic drama, with magical realism, with stories about them and how their journey was. That's what we'd like to do. The theater company has expanded its level of exposure through what we call Artistas de Honor program. I reached out for friends of mine that I've known for almost 60 years, people that have helped me create this theater company, that have mentored students. Most of all, what they've done is lend their expertise to support young actors, technicians, playwrights. The Artistas de Honor include Edward James Olmos, Robert Hayes, Luis Valdez, Danny Valdez, Josefina Lopez, Paul Rodriguez, Mike Gomez, Jerry Velasco, and on and on and on. They kind of signed a contract with me to mentor kids. And what has happened was that the first play we ever did was the Latino version of The Odd Couple with Mike Gomez and Paul Rodriguez as the Artistas de Honor project. Every year we plan to have an Artistas de Honor project. They either write them, they either act in them, or they produce them or direct them. So this is our second time around with Mike and Paul as the Artistas de Honor. I know Paul for 45 years. I knew him as a young comedian. We brought him to San Diego. He had never done a play. Can you believe that? He'd done movies and television, and he's a director, he's a producer, but he has never done a play. The Odd Couple, can you believe that? One of the greatest classical comedies. And he just nailed it. Then he wrote this little pilot that I saw when we were both doing this movie called Ruta Madre. He brought this social drill of Paul and Paul Rodriguez Jr. and Edward James Olmos on a couch about a pitch that they were doing, the three generations. And I thought, my God, this could be a play about us not being on TV and his struggle and his journey of why Latinos are not on TV. We're the invisible, unknown faces. So he thought, yeah, maybe. And guess what? 2 years ago, we did the workshop production, and it was pretty good. His first play he wrote. Of course, it's a different style. It's really teatro. It's as valid as Zoot Suit, Real Women Have Curves. It's an issue play. It is Paul's vision of his journey, and we were very proud to have him do this. He's in love with theater. It's better for teatro. You know, maybe television's lost as the theater's gained with Paul Rodriguez. Teatro Máscara Mágica has the longest theatrical tradition in Southern California, called La Pastorela. La Pastorela was brought here in 1532 with the Spanish. And it took us a long time to do it, 30 years, to bring it to the right land, you know. Luis Valdez has done it at Teatro Campesino. Now it's become a theatrical tradition. We have 4 generations of actors, and we have people coming on their vacation to see our play. It's a agitprop theater. It's wonderful. It's we offend everybody. It's like the 3 wise men meet the 3 stooges. It's a wonderful play, and you know, it's really our tradition. This is our voice of the holidays. That's what we do every winter, every Christmas. The other thing is what we're doing is trying to create a new play called Zapata and Villa. I've always wanted to do the 2 icons of the Mexican Revolution. It's never been done with these 2 people together. We've seen movies of Zapata, we've seen movies of Pancho Villa, but this play is going to bring them together. They were only together for a few minutes in their life, but we're going to bring them in life. And that's our journey this year, to create the new play of Villa and Zapata. And the further year, we're going to revive The Odd Couple with Mike and Mike Gomez and Paul Rodriguez, and we're planning to do other projects that are incredibly important to us. You are very important, because if the word doesn't pass around, right? If we don't tell the story of stories, then we'll become those invisible people again. I want to thank everybody, because you know, our theater is about volunteerism. Hardly anybody gets paid. They pay with their hearts and their souls to bring you the best we can. We're going to be here for a long time.
I teach in Orange County, I teach at Chapman University, and I heard about these wonderful workshops, and I thought, you know, I'm a teacher, I want to also learn. So I went to one of their workshops and I was blown away. I'd seen some of the work from the people in the ensemble, but to be there in that space and to see how inclusive it was, to see how warm the people were, I knew I wanted to be part of it. When we think about community theater and theater that responds to the needs of a particular place, we often think that it's somehow like less good than something that we might see at South Coast Repertory or something that we might see at like the Tabor Forum. But what Breath of Fire proves is that you can have artistic excellence, you can have training, and you can really engage an audience deeply with where they are and reach beyond that audience and still be grounded in Santa Ana. I mean, I think that the example that it sets for the young people in the community, all you have to do is look at the careers it's launched, and the contributions that the writers, directors, poets, you don't get that quality of people to come and to come back and teach and to come back and share their work unless there's something really vibrant and vital. Because we live in a bilingual, multilingual world. I mean, Americans have been very slow on learning other languages because we haven't had to. I mean, English, of course, is the international language for business in many ways. But we live in a place that is going to soon be a Latinx plurality. And it's not just about the numbers, it's about the sensibility. It's about understanding that we're literally living and working and playing and growing and dying on land that was indigenous and was at one point Baja California. And to have these conversations in theater at this point in time, I think is essential.
I found out through a friend of mine. She mentioned them that it's somebody from theater. That's how we all meet in theater. Oh, you should come check them out. And I went to a workshop out on a whim, out of curiosity. And I think it was probably the introduction to playwriting workshop that I went to, just out of curiosity, and I completely fell in love with them. I was more drawn to Breath of Fire because of their vibe and how much fun it is. But they were really encouraging. We're here to develop new voices. Why don't you write? And that's when I started writing and realizing I can do this. I can actually write plays, because theater is something that I absolutely love. I go to the theater all the time, but I never really thought that I would be somebody that could write something that would end up on a stage. Groups like Breath of Fire are very important because they give a voice to women and people of color. One of the most beautiful things that Breath of Fire does is create community, and community that is surrounded by love, and creating out of love where we're all there to support each other and really stand for each other to create something beautiful. One of the biggest missions for Breath of Fire is developing the voices of new playwrights so that they're getting produced. But they're also building community, and they offer a lot of workshops about many different things, from acting, improv workshops. I am the resident improv instructor for Breath of Fire. And it's developing those skills so you can become a better writer, but it's really to become a better human being in connection and really in touch with your creative side.
So I first found out about Breath of Fire when I was 17. Which is a couple of years ago. I was part of Barrio Writers, which is an organization based in Santa Ana. And we happened to be sharing the same building with the Centro Cultural de Mexico on Broadway. And Breath of Fire's little black box theater was also housed there. And through some folks, I believe it's Clau, their name now is David, and they wanted to start something similar to Barrio Writers, which was enriching teens in the neighborhood and doing that but with theater. And so I believe they had a conversation with Sara and folks from Breath of Fire, and the space was open and available. So some students from Chapman would mentor us, and that was my first exposure to Breath of Fire. It's important. I see it as something that is multi-generational, that is not monolingual, that allows for folks that, not just folks that identify as Latinas, but very much rooted in that, and very much loud about that and unapologetic about that. I think that's something really important to be in Orange County, and to be loud and proud and honest about that work. That makes a big difference. That makes for authenticity and gives room for a lot of growth for all the writers and the creators that come through. Breath of Fire has affected the artistic community. It's affected me and my accessibility, I can say, to the arts. If it wasn't for Breath of Fire, I don't know what I would really be doing artistically, because it's a home base for a lot of artists. I think that when there's so much change happening in Santa Ana and in Orange County, and there's so much of taking the good about the community and then taking out the bad, which could mean people, which could mean places, which could mean restaurants, which could be community spaces. To have a space, even though we are in a lot of ways we are nomadic, to have a space allows for folks to just be curious. We've had so many people just come in and see, like, what is this about? We've had people, teenagers wanting to be interested in learning more, and it's always a conversation I feel that we have to have with the community as well, and that's a step that we're also trying to get to is how do we have conversations with the community and continue to have accessibility. I've had the privilege of doing some self-care workshops with different community spaces in Santana, and been brought by Breath of Fire to put these events together. And I think that's also it, is how do we break the walls and break the idea that professional theater can only be accessed to a certain amount of people, or like to specific people, and opening that up, because there's so much opportunity. As I said, there's so much opportunity for all of our lives to be enriched. I think that these classes are so powerful because, specifically with Diana, I can tell you that she will make you feel like your story matters. And it's beyond that. I think, especially for people of color, it's so important that we are told that our stories matter, that our lives matter, that our ideas matter, that our imagination matters, and that we can live, that we've lived in the past, that we live now, and there's a possibility of us living in the future, and us writing that and writing these narratives down, and I think there's so much power in that. When we realize that we have that power, regardless of whatever job or career aspirations you have, it's a process of really learning that your story matters.
When I found out about Breath of Fire was a few years back from Sarah Guerrero, who is the artistic director and founder. We're colleagues at South Coast Repertory Theater, where we both teach. We're instructors in the conservatory. And she had mentioned the idea of me coming in and bringing some of my talent to teach stage combat, which is one of the skills that I have. And then I got involved in also helping the group do a teaching workshop as well. Later on, through the auspices of South Coast Repertory, we were both involved in the Alagos, which is a project to go into Santa Ana and connect with the community and tell their story. So I was a teaching artist there, and that is how we first met. It is important to have Breath of Fire in Santa Ana because it follows through with what the idea originally the Alagos was about, which was to introduce theater arts to a community that does not necessarily have a voice. They have many stories to tell. We all do. It's a universal thing. And it was a wonderful thing to be able to go into their community, learn about them, and then teach them in a way what theater was like and how to tell their stories, writing, performing, and getting together as an ensemble, as a community. Breath of Fire continues to do that. Breath of Fire continues to provide an opportunity for this community to find and develop its creative voice, to continue to expand, including more and more of the community so that they feel empowered to tell their stories. Having theater presented bilingually, whether it's English and Spanish, or Spanglish, as it were, is important because it resonates. It resonates with the audience that is watching it. For example, when I watch TV, I grew up with television and theater, and the idea of, Mission Impossible and West Side Story and Cinderella, etc. But when I saw La Bamba, the film by Luis Valdez, when I see on television the One Day at a Time remake on Netflix, which brings in language and characters and situations that are comparable or resonate with my life, it connects with me. It's a story that's being told for me, about me, and it includes me. That's what's happening in that community. It makes them feel a part of the process of the human condition.
I was in this amazing playwriting class at South Coast Repertory Theater, and Sarah was in the class with me. And I was working on a musical, and Sarah was very encouraging. We would share our works within the group, and she was one of the people that just kept making amazing suggestions. And so when the class was over, I still wanted to write, and the class didn't happen for another year again. And I asked her if she knew of anything, and she said, I have a group called Breath of Fire, and we would love to have you. And I hesitated because I'm not a Latina. And I said, do you really want me to come? And she said yes. And so I've been with them ever since. They're an amazing group. I feel incredibly fortunate to be a part of the Breath of Fire group. It's really significant. First of all, when I go to the space to write there, I write. I don't even have a hesitation. But in addition, having that kind of feedback from people who love to write and love other people, I have to say that's been one of the most inspiring, nurturing, safe places I could ever have written. And you need a place like that. The piece I wrote, for example, I would never have written in another spot. It's extremely political. It expresses something that I felt within the group and then felt compelled to write about and had the resources and the place to write it. So having something like Breath of Fire makes a huge difference in the artistic community for those who want to write and maybe aren't the first choice where other people reach out to have us write.
I've been working at South Coast Repertory for about 14 years now, and I knew Sarah. She was a teacher there, and we were involved with a piece called Diálogos with South Coast Repertory, and we devised a play that Jose Cruz Gonzalez wrote called The Long Road Today, El Largo Camino de Hoy, and so we were in the city of Santa Ana for 2 years straight with South Coast Repertory, and spent a lot of time with the people there, spent a lot of time working in the community, and I became very passionate about staying in the community, feeling like we were giving them resources, we were giving them, there was acting resources, there were playwriting resources, we were really bringing a kind of an art into the community that maybe hadn't been there before. And then when the South Coast Repertory project was over, I really felt passionate about staying. So I hooked up with Sarah and just decided to join Breath of Fire, and I started teaching playwriting classes for the community there, and that's how it started. Well, Breath of Fire does a powerful job of bringing the community into the theater and then including them, which I think is something that maybe a lot of the bigger theaters don't know how to do. I feel like Sarah is brilliant at getting people to come, which is the first step of any kind of theater, because, theater is, it's a difficult thing to make people want to do. For some reason, you talk to anybody, they're all actors, all their kids have been in plays, everybody is in the theater, but nobody's really in the theater. I mean, when you talk about it among professionals, there may be, it's more than this, but it feels like there's only 2,000 people in the entire business. It's very small. But what Sarah has managed to do is she's gotten the community to come in and work with her, work with us, write their plays, tell their stories, really learn from the ground up what it is to do a dramatic theatrical piece. The important thing about getting the Latina voice, and specifically bilingual plays, is that Spanish has become a radicalized language. It is a radicalized language. People feel offended when they hear it. They think somehow that because we include words that they don't understand, that we are either talking about them or challenging them, as opposed to embracing the language. It's you don't find that same kind of angry reaction when you put words in French in or words in Russian, and so it's really very interesting to find. And also, here in Southern California, everybody is mildly bilingual anyway because we've been raised this way. We speak taco, right? Everybody loves tacos. That's pretty bilingual right there. You know how to order it from a restaurant. You know all the joke things like how to say, where's my beer and where's the bathroom. You know, you probably know a lot more Spanish than you think you do. And the moment you open your mind to it, then you're forced to see the humanity of the people that maybe you don't want to see their humanity. So I feel like it's always very important to just open your mind to that. And I mean, I know that for example, if I go see a piece of theater in Polish, which I have done, you are at first going, I don't understand, I'm totally at sea, but you allow these things to wash over you. You start understanding because the languages it's not that different, the way people relate to each other. It isn't. You just let it wash over you and see what you learn and see how it affects you. Just write, just finish. Because a lot of us have great ideas, and I hear this a lot because I do a lot of teaching in the community with people who don't know how to write, quote unquote. Write the story. And I always tell everybody, just write the crappy first draft. It's going to be terrible. It really is. It's okay. I mean, some of my plays, I mean, even now, some people might say, but some of, like, the very first drafts are terrible, but then you have something on paper that you can go back and dissect and fix and work on. If you stop yourself or you go halfway, you're imposing limits on yourself that you do not have to impose. It never has to be good. Nothing creative ever has to be good. There's no such thing. There's no perfect play. There's no perfect piece of art. It just has to exist, you know? And so that's my advice to anybody who wants to be a playwright, any kind of writer, is just finish. Finish something. Do this whole story. Make it happen. Put it on paper or however you do it. Do it on your computer and then go back and edit. But don't edit yourself while you're doing it. And don't let that little voice in your head that tells you you're bad and you're crap and you're no good. Don't just ignore it. Ignore it completely. Aspiring playwrights can join Breath of Fire by coming to take our classes. We always offer them free to the community. We're very lucky to be recipients of several grants that allows us to pay our teaching artists while making sure that it is always free and accessible to anybody who wants to come in and learn.